In this video, I want to show you our indoor light setup and how we grow our plants for our nursery, but also how you can do this at home on a budget in a smaller scale or up to a larger scale. Right here, I have a rack that I built, and this is actually at our business, which is a wellness center in our bathroom. So we're actually growing thousands of plants in our bathroom. So right here, you can see I built this rack with scrap 2x4s that I found and that I had. You can even see right here, I had to join this tiny piece with that piece right there. It's not the most perfect build, but it gets the job done. And I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, including the ground there, levels. So literally I can grow 3 times 6. So I can grow 18 trays at a time with this light setup. And what we do for our nursery is we actually start a ton of our veggie plants, a ton of the cut flower plants that we then later on sell as 4-inch pots. But if you do the math, there's 128 cells right here in these seedling trays. And if you multiply that by 18 trays, you can do the math as to how many plants that is. Once these germinate like these dahlias and they get just a little bigger, then we will go ahead and move these in the greenhouse. But since our greenhouses aren't temperature regulated, it helps to have an indoor light setup like this to have consistent temperatures, to have consistent germination rates. So I wanted to talk about some seeding tips and how you can do this at home on a budget, what lights you want to get, trays. We can talk about watering, seeds, all sorts of things. Just a simple beginner style video so that hopefully this is helpful for you to do at home on a smaller scale and learn the skill of growing your own seeds. I think that's so important. So first, obviously I have this giant rack here that I built. You don't need a rack even. You can get the racks from Amazon that are the wire racks that are either on wheels, the 4 or 5 tier shelving units that you can buy anywhere on Amazon. The next thing is the light that you want to use. Right here, as you can see, I have shop lights and I actually have 2 sets. You can't quite see, but I have one here and one here. And these shop lights are fairly inexpensive and they take 2 light bulbs. The main thing you want to know about the light bulbs, and just to let you know, if you're growing at home, you don't want to use just any light. You don't want to use like a desk lamp. And honestly, you don't even want to use your window because you're always going to get frustrated that you're going to get leggy seedlings. They're always going to lean toward the window and where the light is, similar to this right here. They're kind of leaning to get the light there. I do need to bump this up a little more, this tray, and then they won't lean. But this is what it will look like, and even worse, and they'll get leggy. And once you have a leggy seedling, some you can bring back, some honestly they're done for and you're going to have a weak plant. So I don't really recommend using a window because it's unreliable how much sunlight you'll get, and usually they always get leggy. So get some sort of lights like this. A shop light will do. When you orient the trays this way, you do need 2 fixtures, in my opinion, to cover both sides so that you can get full coverage and more light. If you orient your trays sideways the other way, you can get away with just using 1 light fixture that ends up having 2 bulbs. In terms of the bulbs that you want to use, I end up using the 5000 Kelvin light bulbs. And honestly, we've gotten away with just using the 5000 Kelvin cool. It's the coolest one on the spectrum, anywhere above 5000 or above. I think they do make 6000, but anyway, and the higher the better. That will grow some beautiful plants. However, there are some plants and seedlings that need warm light as well. So what I end up doing is these fixtures take 2 lights, and I don't know if you can see the color difference here, but one is 3000 Kelvin, which is the warm light, and the other one is the 5000 Kelvin. So when you see online and you're trying to buy lights for seedlings, they will say that they are full spectrum. Full spectrum means that they have all of the colors in the lights from warm to cool, which is mimicking what the sun gives the plants. So that's what they need in order to grow some foliage and in order to make flowers and blooms and get enough energy for the whole growth of that seedling. So that's just a tip that you can start right away doing, and you'll get stronger seedlings if you just alternate between 1 warm, 1 cool, 1 warm, 1 cool, and then you'll be good to go. So in terms of a rack, like I mentioned, you can buy the one on Amazon, you can build something, or literally anything you can hang shop lights on. And if you just need 1 shelf, for example, if you're growing seeds at home just for yourself, You don't need this much space to grow so many seedlings. Just think about it. There's 128 plants in this tray right here. This is eucalyptus, by the way. They're just starting to pop up. Holly seeded all of these, and look how well they're all coming up. She's been diligent watering them, and I'll give you some watering tips that she's been doing that really help. But anyway, if you're growing this at home, you don't need one whole tray of 128 eucalyptus. Holly will probably argue with me on that because she's like, yes, I do need 128 eucalyptus for myself at home. But you don't. She's like, I do. But if you're growing tomatoes, for example, and you literally can just do one row of tomatoes, you can do one row of peppers, one row of eggplants, whatever you need for your home setting, you don't need a huge setup. So literally you can get away with using one fixture, 1 to 2 trays, place them sideways, even on the ground, anywhere. When you buy these shop lights, they come with a chain that you can just hang on anything. And the chain is about 6 inches, maybe 8 inches to a foot long. So you can adjust that height. So anywhere in your garage floor, in your basement, even in a bathroom like we're doing here, somehow, some way that you can hang these lights. You don't need to attach them. I screwed them here to the shelving unit because I had a hard time hanging the chain. But long story short is anywhere that you can hang the chain, I do recommend to hang these because then you can adjust the height. And I'll talk about how high you want them from your trays. But long story short, if you're just doing this at a home setting, you can get away with 2 or 3 trays, and literally that'll be your entire garden. 1 or 2 shop lights, you're good to go. Just keep in mind the light bulbs that I mentioned. The other thing is these are called 10 by 20 trays. I'll see if I can find some online. I can link in the description for you. These have no holes, and that's very important. And then Holly ended up getting some of these plug trays, they're called. And the sides were kind of rounded, so she actually took some scissors to the sides and cut them so that they would fit in this. This is our way of doing it because that way you have a tray that has no holes so that later on, once your seedlings sprout up, you can bottom water. And bottom watering is super important when you're doing indoor seeding because the more moisture you have on the leaves of the plants and the soil on top, the more disease and fungus gnats you can bring in. And it becomes a nightmare to try to deal with all those diseases and issues. So this is why we have it set up this way. And like you can see here, she'll bottom water. And also right here, Holly has this mister. She is top watering these, but she's just doing it for demonstration. When you first plant your seeds and they're not up, you can use a mister just to mist the top of the soil. I don't recommend bottom watering when you first start your seedlings. It can dislodge the seeds, but once they come up, then you can begin bottom watering. When you first seed, like I mentioned, you can do the misting on top, and that really helps keep them moist, and you can do that once a day. Right here, I have a timer. This is just a timer for the lights themselves. I do recommend to get a timer. Just find any on Amazon. I'll link a few. But essentially, you do want this timer to be on, or the lights to be on for 16 hours a day. And then the timer goes off for 8 hours. So the plants, it's mimicking sunlight, essentially. You'll get some great seedlings if they get 16 hours of light and 8 hours of rest. The rest in the 8 hours is just as important as the 16 hours of light. The plants, when they're taking up energy from the lights during those 16 hours, if you keep the lights on forever, thinking you're pushing the growth, the plants are only putting energy into the leaves and they won't get a ton of root development. They don't get to rest. So they do need that rest in order to produce some strong roots. And sometimes the plants and the leaves, if you leave the lights on for too long, you'll notice they'll bleach a little bit. They'll turn lighter. So they do need that 8 hours. So again, 16 hours a day, 8 hours off. You can get that timer. The next thing is, like I mentioned before, you do want your trays to be 2 to 4 inches from the plants themselves. When you first start your seedlings right here, you can see these are pretty short. These right here are a little taller. So we do end up stacking either 2x4s or even another tray. We flip it and that will elevate the plants up. The taller the plants get, then we start removing those trays underneath. But if you do have this set up at home, you have it hanging on that chain, what I would recommend is just hang that chain to where it's at its full max capacity, 8 to 12 inches, however long the chain is. And then as the plants begin to grow, just pull that chain up a little bit and pull the lights away to where the lights are 2 to 4 inches from the plants themselves. Not the tray, but the leaves, if that makes sense. So that is the shop lights. That is the trays. Some seed starting tips. We use a Spoma organic mix, a seed starting mix. It doesn't have, from my knowledge or remembering, any fertilizer that I remember. But when you do see that the seedlings do pop up, just remember to fertilize them with a liquid fertilizer. You can use Neptune's Organics. Anything fish fertilizer that's organic, that's stinky, will do. You only need like a tablespoon in the water, and they'll take that up and they'll begin to green up, dark green for you. And you can do that every watering. As you can see here, I'm on the ground, and on the camera this distance looks large because I have it on a wide angle lens so you can see everything, but it's not. And you can see these seedlings right here. They look almost like little soldiers. They're so even Stevens. Holly got them dead center in each, but the lights are just right in terms of the distance that they need to be in order for these to not get leggy. These are some zinnias, double Zahara raspberry ripple zinnias that we are carrying for our local sales at our local online nursery. These do so well here in our area, here in the South. Another tip is we get these clip-on fans. Seedlings, when they first germinate, they need wind, because think about it, when they're outside, the wind is blowing on them, and that movement will stimulate for these stems to thicken up and get stronger, so that when you move these plants outside, you'll have strong, thick stems and not weak plants that will break with the wind. So the wind is extremely important. You only need one little fan here, so if you only have one shelf, I'd recommend one fan per shelf. What we do is we just rotate this fan, and we have another one as well, and it circulates enough air to keep the seedlings strong. If you don't have a fan, every day just go ahead and just take your hands and rub them on the seedlings. That will do the same effect. If you just do that once a day, or just every so often that you see the seedlings, just go ahead and brush up on them, and you'll notice every day the more the seedlings grow, the stronger the stems and more upright they'll be. And the last tip I got for you is when you first seed your trays right there, you can see we have a humidity dome. We always put the humidity domes on right after seeding. And I said the last tip, but the second to last tip, or last tip, we do top off our seed trays with vermiculite, and that helps keep the moisture right on top. Because when you first seed your trays, if you don't have vermiculite, it's fine, it'll still work, but we find that the vermiculite really helps in case you miss a day of watering. It stays moist enough to keep that tiny little seed moist. Because when you have poor germination, it's because that seed ends up drying out. And if you have the fans on, or if you have a lot of movement in the air, the seeds will tend to dry out faster. So we find it's just a little extra insurance to have that vermiculite in case we miss a day of watering or of misting. And also, on top of having the vermiculite, we like to have the humidity domes, one, to keep the temperature warm. A lot of seeds, depending on what you grow, like it between anywhere from 65 degrees up to 80 degrees, even 85, depending on the seeds, like peppers, eggplants, like it a little warm. You can't always get the heat mats that they sell, and you can place them underneath for the hotter, for the veggies that like hotter temps, or the cut flowers that like hotter temps. We don't even bother because this is enclosed in a small room, and these lights do put off a little bit of heat. So it stays 70s and up in here, and they germinate just fine for us. But anyway, if you do have something in like your garage or somewhere where it's going to be cooler, you may want to look into getting a heat mat on Amazon. They are inexpensive, not very much. But long story short, humidity dome plus the vermiculite here on top really ensures that you get some really, really good germination. Once the seedlings do pop up, we take the humidity domes off because you don't want to keep all of that moisture on the leaves. Fungus gnats can come and so on. But right here you can see, look at all that humidity that's keeping in. It really helps keep those seeds moist and really helps with germination. So that's pretty much that in terms of the seed tips. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And if you want to see more videos in terms of seed starting or nursery behind the scenes and what we're doing, any tips that you want to learn about or see what we're all doing, leave it in the comments. We're happy to make whatever videos you guys want or whatever things you want to learn from. We have so much content that we can make, and sometimes when we're just doing nursery stuff, we forget. We're like, oh, we should probably video this. So if you have any ideas or anything like that in the comments, leave them below. I hope that was helpful. And don't forget, we have our nursery, which is an online nursery, and our pre-order sales are still going. So if you're local to the Greenville, South Carolina area, it's setapartfarmandgardens.com, so that you can buy your plants online, pre-order, and then you can pick up locally here actually at Set Apart Health, our wellness center. Or if you want plants shipped to you, it's setapartfarmandgardensshipnow.com, and we sell proven winners annuals and perennials there, and we ship nationwide for that. The pre-sale order is happening now, and I think we're getting close to the cutoff in terms of when we can keep reordering plants. Some have sold out, but we reordered. But once they sell out, like in the next few weeks, I don't know that we'll be able to reorder because, you know, we only have so much time that we can grow them. Anyway, I think YouTube thinks you're going to like these videos here. That pops up just for you. Be sure to watch them, leave us a like, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.